Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and have we got a massive show for you. We were announcing it last night like everybody else that Manchester United's new CEO will be Omar Berrada, and this morning we're going to be unpacking that, having had time to digest, read and understand, because I think a lot of people last night were just sat there for hours going, oh, I think this, I think that, whereas 10 minutes before they didn't have a bloody clue who he was. It's important to take your time, do your research and look at this. And I want to look at Ineos's role in this. Did they pick him? What does that mean for the Glazers? I think there's an interesting bit of analysis there. Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell expected to be next. What does this mean for Erik ten Hag as well? I think it's a positive. I think there's some real positives for Ten Hag with this announcement as well that may not please the Ten Hag outers. Also, we're going to talk about Berrada himself, what he's all about, some of the hints that we've got. Are we pleased that he's from Man City? Are we pleased that he's got a Twitter timeline full of thinking, hope Man United lose games? Well, straight away, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not going to be a hypocrite on this. I said it many, many times. When we appoint a CEO, their CV has to be par excellence in football. Not who they support, not where they go on holiday, not what country they're from. It had to be, well, that CEO knows what they're doing. And when you look at Berrada and you look at some of the things he said, I mean, straight away, let me just read you this quote, because I think this is absolutely, well, it's not a quote, but this is exactly what happened. Berrada wanted to walk away from the Harry Maguire transfer that Man City were linked to because they have a policy of the club, and he insisted they will not overpay on any player if they do not feel there is value in the market for them. And I think that that is a very, very important thing to state straight away, is that this is a guy that deemed Maguire too expensive and decided to wait a year to get Diaz. He wasn't convinced by Jorginho and waited a year to sign Rodri. He was key in the signing of Erling Haaland, which Manchester United were involved in. He passed on Alexis Sanchez because of wage demands. I mean, the connections between Man United mistakes and Man City success are there for everybody to see. A key strategic person in Man City, but most importantly, Man City, the Times reporting last night that Berrada has got no involvement, absolutely no involvement in anything that Man City might get done for. And look, trust me, Man City are not happy about this. They're not happy about this at all. He wasn't CEO of Man City. I kept saying that last night latterly in the video. I got it right at the start. He was Chief Operating Officer. That's not CEO. It's sort of one below. There isn't a role for him as CEO at Man City. So this is a step up to take a CEO job at club like Manchester United. But he was offered other Premier League jobs in the summer and he rejected them. He was offered an NFL franchise, like Dallas Cowboys. I don't think it was them, but something like that. So very, very well respected within the game, and somebody that really did want to, take that step up and ultimately has done that. I think it's absolutely essential that Manchester United bring somebody like this in. And I, as I said, I've got no care at all on what he has got to say in relation to Manchester United on his timeline or Chelsea or anything like that. But what I do care about is this quote that he has. Winning 5 titles in 10 years is a result of a vision that the ownership had 12 years ago. To develop a strong academy, to develop a specific way of playing football, and to bring the right manager for the type of football you want to play. We also needed to bring in the right players for that. Tixie has been building the squad for many years and ensuring that we get the right squad balance and bring youth from the academy. It's a combination of everything, plus all the work that goes on behind the scenes concerning injury management and prevention, and working with Pep and the coaching staff to ensure player rotation so that all players can hit peak form at the right time. I mean, pardon the pun, but it's a well-oiled machine at Man City, isn't it? Whatever they've done, that club is elite. I've said it before. You look at the structure, you look at the infrastructure, you look at what they've done. We've just gone and brought a guy to come and be our CEO who's saying exactly what you and I have been saying for 10 years. I mean, it's not rocket science, and he's basically just summarised every show we've spoken about the structure of Man United for the last 10 years. We've just appointed somebody who gets it. It's a vision that the ownership has to have. Strong academy and a specific style of play that is in tune with the manager that you have. We need to bring the right players in at the right price, build the squad. Injury management and prevention, working with the manager. All these things are a direct quote from our new CEO. You can't not be impressed by that. But on the other hand, There's so much to unpack here, and I want to get your comments as well, of course. But there is so much to unpack here because I think that we still have to retain a level of cynicism. Of course we do. We're Manchester United. I mean, what I find incredible here is that, look, Sir Jim Radcliffe's had a big part in this appointment. Of course he has. And I don't think people understand the structure of Manchester United, and it's important to remind people of what's going on here. There are certain people out there that are cheerleaders for God knows what. You know, we saw it with the SEC report last week. I don't know whether they're pro-Glazer, pro-Sir Jim. It's weird because actually you should be pro-Manchester United. The Glazers wouldn't know their arse from their elbow. We got a statement last night that the Glazers appointed Berrada in conjunction with Ineos. But we've been talking about this for years. We've been talking about why the Glazers have watched and presided over a steaming turd for 10 years and kept Ed Woodward and Richard Arnold as CEO. Nothing prevented the Glazers from going and getting someone like Berrada for the last 15 years. Nothing. And then Sir Jim comes in and we go and get someone like Berrada. So you can't say that the Glazers have done this. They haven't done this. They've got the final say on it, but this has been presented to them by Sir Jim Radcliffe. There's no doubt about that, or Ineos, or Sir David Brailsford. And all Sir Jim's done is what you would have done. I mean, he's not a bloody genius. He's gone and appointed a CEO that's one of the best CEOs in football. We've been talking about this for the last 10 years. So I applaud Ineos, but it's an open goal. Qatar would have done it. You would have done it. I would have done it. And Sir Jim's gone and done it. And thank God we've got somebody in that football club that wants to do that. And, you know, there was a very big statement that came out from Manchester United when they announced that they were going to do this deal. And I have it here somewhere. Let me just read it to you because it's really relevant to what we're doing as a football club. And it goes like this. The club is determined. This is the statement that came from Manchester United on the appointment of Omar Berrada. The club is determined to put football and performance on the pitch back at the heart of everything we do. Omar's appointment represents the first step on this journey. It is our stated ambition to re-establish Manchester United as a title-winning club, and we're pleased that Omar will be joining us to help us achieve that goal. So that once again, United fans can see, in the words of Sir Matt Busby, the red flag flying high at the summit of English, European and world football. Well, look, you know what? There's a lot of sentimentality in that. Of course there is. I mean, look, it's a big statement. Look, I will do what I think is right on this journey, and I will call it out and I will challenge it and I will say actions speak louder than words all the way through. You can see some cheerleaders online who think we're back, and they don't seem to understand the structure of Manchester United at all, which I'll explain in a moment. But these are positive steps that had to happen and were always going to happen. How long is it going to take? You know, it's almost like some people think now we've got a CEO and we'll talk about Dan Ashworth in a minute, and we've got Ineos, we're going to win the league next year. Absolutely not. I'll give you a really, really quick, succinct statement here. Manchester City, ironically, are the strongest club in Europe, and they're the strongest club in England, not because of Pep, not because of the team. In relation to financial fair play, we are going through a January transfer window that is deader than roadkill. Has anyone realised that this January transfer window is dead? Not just for us, for everybody. Why is it dead? Because everybody's shitting themselves about financial fair play because Everton have been given a 10-point deduction and they might get another one. So everybody's terrified of financial fair play. The strongest club in England at the moment that can spend money easily is Man City, because they've got more revenue than anyone else and they're making more money than anybody else from success. And they've also got money to spend because they've got Abu Dhabi. Man City will dominate this sport for decades unless that 115 charge thing happens. Because ironically, what they've done over the last 10 years, now that the rules have got teeth, they're set up. They're set up for the next 20, 30 years. They've got massive revenue, they've got massive success, and they're basically what Man United could have done if the Glazers never took hold of the club. We should have used our revenue to build our success. Instead, we used our revenue to fill the Glazers' pockets. So Man City are a juggernaut, and they're not going to go anywhere. We're not just going to suddenly get Berrada in from Man City and take over. We're miles and miles and miles and miles behind, and it's a long road ahead. There's optimism, of course there is, but there is a very long road ahead, and it won't be solved by getting a CEO in. So, look, I'm excited about this. It's a really good appointment. But you look around on social media last night and it's like we've won the treble. Like, we are miles off. We've still got Scott McTominay playing every week. We've still got no service to our striker. We've still got a load of players on ridiculous money, and we're still massively hindered financial fair play. I like what this Omar guy is saying, but the biggest thing is 10 to 12 years it took Man City to dominate football. It's not going to happen overnight at Manchester United. Far from it. But these are the sort of things that need to happen. And, you know, the statement that came out with accompanying Berrada is absolutely correct. We have to put football back on the plate at Manchester United instead of the business side of things. But this is where it gets interesting to me. Thanks for the membership gift, says Liam. Surely it's a good sign that the usual journalist didn't seem to have a sniff of the story. I loved that, Kieran. I absolutely loved that. Loved that. And it's a great point from Kieran. Thanks for your super chat. Get your comments in. There's loads to discuss this morning. But I loved that. It came from nowhere last night. I mean, I was literally putting a different video out that I'll have to redo later in the week. And it was going to be a good video. I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was brilliant. And you would have really loved it. I just finished recording it. And then Beth messaged the WhatsApp group saying, have you seen this from Ornstein? Came from nowhere. Love that. Absolutely love that. Love that. We forget the spin we knew was coming with Sir Jim's minority takeover. That's not just signings, but also board appointments. I'm staying sceptical, says Nick J. Well, look about... Everyone was talking about Qatar 24 hours ago and how the SEC report and the Glazers might be lying. CEO gets announced. Forget that Qatar story now. We're back. Well, you know, we are going to get a lot of positivity thrown at us because there's so many bad things that have happened. You know, I was thinking this morning. CEO, big news, lots of excitement. What's next? Director of football. That'll be big news for a bit. Then we're probably going to get Mitchell as well. So there's going to be a lot of positive appointments that are going to make us feel positive. But action, action, action. And these are actions. We're not talking about it. These are actions. Do you think the new CEO will change on-pitch issues? 100%, James. And Mark, thank you for coming on Sunday morning, sir, says Trader. Thank you. Yeah, well, look, let me just explain this to you as well. There was a statement that came out last night, and I'm going to read this to you. And it came out, we put it out on the United stand because it did come out from the club, and it basically said words to this effect. Let me get it for you, just so you can read it. The United stand, basically we got told this. The United stand understands that Omar Berrada's appointment was made by Joel and Avram Glazer in consultation with Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The appointment has been made during this transition period so that new CEO can be in place as soon as possible after the investment by Sir Jim. So a lot of people in the replies to that, well, don't give the Glazers credit when this is clearly all on Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I think it's really important to acknowledge here that this is an Ineos appointment. Berrada is an Ineos capture. But you've just got to bear in mind here, I think there are elements of our fan base that are trying to pitch a battle that's not actually happening. And I've noticed it, and I think it needs calling out. It's almost like some people in our fan base, and I think I don't know what element of the fan base it is, because God knows what elements of our fan base we have now. It's so divided, isn't it? And it always has been for a long time. But there is an element of our fan base that are pitching Sir Jim against the Glazers and sort of going, Sir Jim's the saviour of Manchester United and the Glazers are evil. And I think those people need to screw their head on, because that is not happening. If the Glazers fall out with Sir Jim, they can remove him from the club. They can just pay him what he paid for his shares in 18 months and he's gone. That's in the SEC report. They can give him his money back and boot him out of the club. So let's not start pretending that Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos and the Glazers are in some sort of battle here for popularity. The fans might want to pitch that battle, but it's not the truth. The truth is they're working together. And what you need to understand here is that if I own a business and somebody gives me money for 25% of it and says I'm going to run it better and you can stay in America and enjoy yourselves, I'm going to go, you crack on. And I think that's what the Glazers are doing here. Sir Jim Ratcliffe has got 2 spots on the board. So he's got a say. That's what he's got. He also has control of the footballing side. Well, the CEO has to be in tune with the footballing side. And when they're appointing a CEO, he's got a place on the board. So I think what's happened here is Manchester United need a CEO. Sir Jim has put some work in and said, look, you know this guy at Man City, he's one of the best in football. He will take the CEO job. And the Glazers have gone, yeah, okay, that sounds really good. Let's do that. I think that's what's happened. I think Sir Jim is pushing things. I think Ineos are pushing things because they've got to make it work. But the Glazers are just there going, well, it's a win-win. What I'm trying to say is it's a win-win. And these people in our fan base that are trying to say it's Ineos versus the Glazers, Sir Jim owns 25%. The Glazers own 49%. 49%. The Glazers still own this football club. The Glazers can still say no to things, and the Glazers want Sir Jim to take control of decisions because they win. If Sir Jim brings a good CEO in and a good director of football in, and we start winning and we start making money, who's making money? The Glazers. I think we're walking down two pathways here. Either the Glazers will never relinquish control and will become silent partners making money, or we're on the pathway to 100% sale at some point where Manchester United are worth a lot more than they were when they tried to sell it a year ago. But I think that there is this misconception in the fan base that there is some sort of battle going on between Sir Jim and the Glazers when they're actually business partners. And the Glazers are actually happy to hand over the football side to Sir Jim in the knowledge that they can just stay back in America without the heat and watch somebody do all the hard work and boost their profit. I don't think the Glazers will have much to do with Manchester United, to be honest. I don't think they will. I think there'll be the odd conversation maybe on a daily basis, but I don't think they'll have much to do with it anyway, because really they want Sir Jim to be successful because the value of Man United goes up and up, and whether Sir Jim's going to buy it eventually or they sell it altogether and they all make a profit, it matters not. The Glazers own the football club and they're letting somebody else do all the work, and we should just be happy about that because it's the reality of the situation that we're in. So yeah, I think that Berrada is something to do with Ineos and to do with Sir Jim, but I think the Glazers would be very happy for Sir Jim to be doing all that sort of stuff because he's doing a lot of work and that they don't have to. And the last 10 years at Manchester United, the guy that was running Manchester United as a fact, day to day, running it like the dictator, was Ed Woodward. Ed Woodward was running that football club. That's who ran Manchester United, Ed Woodward. You've now got a guy that's built Man City. You've got a guy that built Brighton and Newcastle's recruitment coming in. You've got a guy that did amazing work at Southampton, Spurs, Monaco, Leipzig coming in as well. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got Berrada, Ashworth, Mitchell to come in and start running the football side of things with Sir David Brailsford, Blanc and Sir Jim involved. And then you've got Ed Woodward. I mean, it's the contrast is absolutely huge. Absolutely huge. Ken says, is he jumping the Man City ship before the sanctions? Says Ken. You know, it's interesting you say that. I don't think Berrada is jumping the Man City ship because of the sanctions they may face. I don't know whether they're going to face any sanctions. But it's interesting you say that because, one, the Times are saying he's got no involvement in it. But two, I think we need to, well, when I look at can Sir Jim Ratcliffe take Manchester United back to the top, I still am very sceptical because I think I'll say it clear. If Man City get charged by the Premier League and relegated, that's our opportunity. That's Liverpool's opportunity. That's Arsenal's opportunity. You've got to jump in on that. If Man City get away with it, I don't see how they ever get toppled. They are such a juggernaut. They have got so much money and they've had 10 years where if they get away with it, they're the best set up club to deal with financial fair play now. I mean, their revenue's nearly as much as bloody Real Madrid. I don't get it. You look at the yearly reports on revenue and they're nearly there with Real Madrid. How are Man City making the same amount of money as Real Madrid? Makes no bloody sense to me. But they are. That's what they're releasing as revenue. They do buy well. They don't get taken the piss out of. They are not, United's revenue and United's spend on wages. There's a small gap for us to spend money on players. Man City's revenue and what they spend, it's a bigger gap. So the gap's going to get bigger. Financial fair play is going to have a massive impact. And if Man City are not dealt with, then I think that they will continue to dominate. It'll be very, very difficult for anybody to catch up, not just Manchester United. Donald Sterling got forced to sell the LA Clippers from controversy. Robert Sava was forced to sell the Phoenix Suns as well. Any chance this thing with Qatar can do the same with Glazers, says Son. I think that Qatar SEC report's going to disappear, to be honest, mate, now. I think it will. But I guess we'll see. So Jim is doing great. Trust the process, as Merjan. Berrada clearly smells blood with City charges. Wonder when City's players and management start jumping ship. What a coup for Man United. He starts in the summer, says Akash. Well, Pep Guardiola's contract ends at the end of next season, which is when the charges will be either dropped or pushed through. I get the Berrada move from his perspective. Turning this sinking ship around will make him a legend at this huge club and cement him as one of the best ever, says Kazim. Look, in relation to why Berrada's just took this job, I want to talk about Ten Hag, and there's a few other things I want to get into. So if you've got any questions, throw them in. We'll get into that, of course. Make sure you smash a like on the video. But if you look at Berrada's timeline on Twitter, it's very pro Man City. He works for Man City. And there is some anti-United stuff in there. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I really don't. It was a shock last night, and I had a few concerns, which I expressed in my video about how can a guy that's been at Man City for a decade not potentially be involved in what Man City's charges are. Apparently he's not, so that's absolutely fine. If we went and got Liverpool's director of football, would you be bothered? I wouldn't. If we go and get Arsenal's CEO, would you be bothered? Well, I'd need to. He's not Man. I want Man City's CEO, COO. He's not CEO, but you know what I mean. This guy is leaving Man City because he wants to be a CEO. He wants to be a chief executive officer. At Man City, he's one step down. He wants that job. Man City can't give him that job because they've already got one. So you're always in a dangerous position. In a footballing sense, it's like an assistant manager working under Sir Alex who wants a manager's job. Brian Kidd did it, went to Blackburn. Steve McLaren did it. People do it. I think Mullenstein did it. Queiroz did it. We were very successful under Sir Alex Ferguson, but the amount of assistant coaches that left because they wanted to go and be a manager themselves, you're a victim of your own success. Man City can't give him the CEO job. Man United can. So I understand why he's done it. And it's a massive coup for us. Do I care that he was at Man City? Not really, because the criteria has to be our CEO has got to be the best footballing CEO you can get. Well, this is probably going to tick that box on many levels. You could get a CEO from Juventus, you could get a CEO from PSG, you could get one from Real Madrid, but they don't know the Premier League. This guy knows the Premier League. I think it's absolutely perfect. I do. You've got to take emotion out of it. You've got to take club rivalry out of it. But in appointing somebody who knows the job, then he's absolutely perfect there. And I understand why he's taken it. Now, what do you think it means for Ten Hag? Because I think this is a positive for Ten Hag. Go back to the positive days of the Ten Hag appointment. Go back to before he took the job at Manchester United. Let me just have a sip of this. We analysed Ten Hag's past. And Ten Hag's past, pre-Ajax, was Bayern Munich, reserve team coach, when Pep Guardiola was there. Whether you like it or not, and a lot don't like Ten Hag at the moment because it's not going well, Ten Hag's principles as a manager are very, very close to Pep Guardiola. And who's just been working with Pep Guardiola for 10 years? Well, not quite 10 years, but for many years. Berrada. So I think that this, I don't think Ten Hag will have anything to do with this. But if you're appointing a CEO that's suitable for Erik Ten Hag, then Berrada is perfect, because Ten Hag is a massive admirer of Pep Guardiola. He's worked with Pep Guardiola, and look at the team that he had at Ajax. You look at what Berrada said about building a team over a period of time that's in tune with the style of football and the manager that you have. I think that this Berrada deal, it doesn't mean that Ten Hag's not going to lose his job, but I think if Ten Hag can steer the club to the summer without major event, like losing 4 or 5 games or something like that, then if he can get to the summer, I think Berrada works well with Ten Hag, in my opinion. Gems is a legend. She's just gifted 5 memberships. Hope you're doing well, Gems. Recovering from knee surgery and couldn't be happier with this selection, says Sash, football guy with a football IQ. Exactly. Thank you. Keep your comments coming in. So I think it's good for Ten Hag, potentially, because I think Berrada working with Pep and Ten Hag is sort of in tune with that. Works really, really well as well. Just on the transfers, really, we can bring Berrada into this because I want to start talking about Ashworth and Mitchell as well. He'll not have knowledge of how a club should be run as well, says Ross. Mate, Berrada's going to have knowledge about how to build a Premier League club that can win it. He's going to have knowledge of academies because Man City's is fantastic. He's going to have knowledge of infrastructure and how to build that, which is what Manchester United need. He's got knowledge of the transfer market. He's got knowledge of saying no. I think this is absolutely massive. I mean, I put it out on Twitter last night. It probably got completely lost. There's a tweet we put out last night. Remember, we were linked to Brobby yesterday. So we went and sort of asked the question about Brobby and, you know, United targets for the summer. And what we got back from the club was this. Manchester United at the moment cannot offer any concrete advice on summer transfer targets. Manchester United will always be scouting and looking at players of interest, but we are going through a strategic review at the moment where even if we did have a set of summer transfer targets, there may be changes coming to Manchester United imminently that will drastically change those summer targets. Well, that's management speak, but what it actually means is we might have targets for the summer at the moment, but they're far from concrete because there's going to be appointments that will change that. We've just seen one. The CEO will change targets. If Ten Hag says, I want Brobby and I want Todibo and I want Neves now, well, Berrada comes in 3 months' time and says, no, they're not the right players. Dan Ashworth comes in and says, no, they're not the right players. So all these stories you're getting about transfers for the summer at the moment, I just go, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. You know, it's like when I walk past the living room and the wife's watching, you know, something that I'm not really that bothered about. Oh, that's interesting. You know, I'm not interested in Man United summer transfer targets because they're irrelevant. The people who are talking about them and targeting them might not be in a job when it comes to actually buying players in the summer. But what I like about Berrada is that when it comes to the transfer policy in the summer, and apparently he won't start his job until next season or the summer, but he has resigned from Manchester City, so he won't be working for Man City, and there may be, I mean, surely Man United need to start tomorrow, you know, yesterday on this, so I'm sure he's going to have some involvement on the summer deals, and his principles won't be hard to, you know, tap up. What has to stop, and now will stop, is the Jadon Sancho deal, the Harry Maguire deal, the Alexis Sanchez deal, the Paul Pogba deal. These deals where we blow most of our budgets on players that are overpriced and give them stupid wages and there's no value in it. Gone are the days where we spend £82 million on Anthony and give him 200 grand a week. Gone are the days where we spend £80 million on Harry Maguire and give him 180 grand a week. Gone are the days where we chase Jadon Sancho for 12 months, give him 75 million and give him 300 grand a week. It's over. And I say this Sunday morning, hallelujah to that. I mean, that is over. Because it's not even speculation. That is the principle of this CEO that we're bringing in. Like, he you know, is actually quoted, we walked away from that deal because we didn't see the value in it. We liked the player, but not at that price and not at that wage. Whereas Man United seem to go, we like that player, and no matter what, even if we get our pants pulled down, we'll get him. And that mentality has to shift. What I'm talking about here is respect in the transfer market. I mentioned this to you probably 5 years ago. Obviously, we speak to agents, we speak to journalists, you speak to people in the industry. It's the hidden industry that I think many United fans understand now. You know, what's said publicly isn't what goes on in the murky world of football. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in the murky world of football that you wouldn't believe. But in the world of transfers and agents and players and selfishness and greed, Manchester United are a soft target. They're seen as a circus. Clubs see Man United coming. They can hear them coming in their big clown boots. They can see their big green hair, their big silly makeup, and they absolutely take the piss out of us. Our reputation in world football, in the transfer industry, is terrible. This is going to change like that. Can't even click. That. Berrada, accompanied by whoever the new director of football is and whatever, is very much a person that will establish instantaneously respect. People often said, how do we go from being a joke in the transfer industry to being respected? We're still Manchester United who've been crap at transfers for years. We remove the jokes. Instead of Woodward walking down the road to do a deal or Murta flying over to Turin, You've got Berrada. He's like, hello, remember me from Man City? Same, again. I'm not here to be taken the piss out of. This is what we will play for this player. It's a fair price. If you want to go and start dealing with Chelsea or someone else like that, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll speak to you again on another deal in the future. See you later. We've got other options. That confidence, arrogance, whatever you want to call it, professionalism is about to hit Manchester United. And that's, to me, probably the most exciting thing. Because I know, as many of you do, that Manchester United has been an embarrassment in the transfer industry for too long. And we've now got somebody quoted, you know, who is a CEO that doesn't, well, he will be our CEO, who will not accept that type of behaviour. He won't. And I think that it will revolutionise Manchester United's recruitment. CEO versus the CEO is very different from CAO. Is he really proven? Was expecting someone tried and tested, exciting but surprising. It's a step up, James. It's a step up. There's no doubt about that. But everybody's got to step up. You know, nobody's born a CEO. He's been offered plenty of CEO jobs, numerous in the Premier League last summer, and rejected them. He's taken this one. Mark, with the appointment of Berrada, do you think people like Ashworth Mitchell will be more motivated to join us? Well, I'm talking about that next, Tony Marshall. Thanks for your super chat. Let's get the right leaders in and wait for shopping until the summer unless we sell a key player, says Carlos. We finally hit rock bottom of the barrel. By clearing out the top, we can now move further forward, says Stefan. More footballing people around. Eric Ten Hag equals more scrutiny, says Akash. Hi, Mark. You talk about how City are a juggernaut and can't be stopped. But was that not what United were at one point? Did teams not see us as a juggernaut? Yeah, we were, Ahmed, and we absolutely disintegrated. So there has to be a disintegration of Man City. If the Glazers had run the club properly after Sir Alex, we were never going to be toppled, which is what pisses me off. What's going to be Man City's toppling points? Because it wasn't, people will say, well, when Pep leaves, but they're still a well-run club. It wasn't just Sir Alex Ferguson leaving, it was the decisions of the ownership that sent us into oblivion. Thank you very much for that. But you know what? Great point there. Great point there that was made about the appointments. I think it was what Carlos said. Tony Marcial says, Mark Berrada taking the CEO job under Blanc, who did it for years, will be perfect for us. Well, this is again about structure that's very important. I don't know whether this has been officially ratified yet, but Sir Jim Radcliffe has got 2 Ineos positions on the board of Manchester United. You've got a CEO in Berrada. You've got Brailsford, who I don't know whether is on the board. We're hearing that Blanc's on the board as an Ineos representative. So as a CEO, you're almost answerable to the board. But if Blanc's on the board, he's higher than the CEO. So I don't know whether that's official yet. It's going around the rumour mill. It might already be out there. I don't know whether I've read it somewhere, but it's certainly going around the rumour mill that Blanc will heavily be involved. He's on Ineos board, and he's a massive advisor on the football side to Ineos. But I think he's going to take a place on the board at Manchester United, so he'll actually be higher than the CEO. And this is the guy who was CEO of Juventus and PSG and recently went to Ineos. So again, there is a lot to be positive about these appointments because they're all footballing appointments, and this is what Manchester United need to do. But what is really, talk about Mbappe to Man United, absolutely no chance, Emmanuel. And hallelujah to that. No more fucking stupid twatty signings like that. Oh, let's go and buy Mbappe for 200 million. No. This is not how you build a football club. We need to build a football club, not a bloody Galactico. Only that. It's time for that sort of stuff to stop, certainly. But look, what I will say is, through all the positivity, I will always personally be a voice of reason to myself, not to you. You deal with it how you want. You can bring Berrada in. You can bring Ashworth in. You can put Blanc on the board. You can do all these great footballing things. But in the summer, if we get rid of Casemiro and Varane to save money, and we keep Maguire, McTominay, Lindelof, Wan-Bissaka, what's changed? So, yeah, let's not pretend that we're walking down Lollipop Lane with candy floss flowers and cherryade lemonade and the walls are made of gingerbread. There's so much that needs to be done, and every decision must be scrutinised. This is a positive decision, and I think there will be more positive decisions. But let's not pretend there's going to be bad decisions. Let's not pretend there's not going to be more bad results. We're not out the woods by a long way. And you would expect this CEO to come in and make good footballing decisions. But look, maybe they'll give Scott McTominay a new contract, in which case you're like, what the fuck's going on? So we have to scrutinise everything because we're still Glazer owned. So Jim still only has a small percentage, really, comparatively. And a lot of these decisions were logical and straightforward and quick wins. What power do they have? What decisions do they make? Must be scrutinised. And they've got to get a lot of things right. And I think they've got it right with the CEO. And I think there will be... I think that what is encouraging is... what will Sir Jim Radcliffe's role within Manchester United be? Is he just a shareholder or what title, says KFJ? I don't know. I presume he's on the board. I think that's the end of Sancho as well, says Omri. And Mark, off topic, but my country, South Africa, and my agency have partnered with a new Saudi club. We have 800k boys to trial and get a chance to play overseas, says Abana. That sounds absolutely fantastic, mate. Maybe send some to Man United if they're any good. But I think that what will happen next with Manchester United is going to be the director of football. And... you know, it's almost like staged positivity, isn't it? There's a lot of negativity because of that Qatari SEC report. You drop that we've got a new CEO on a Saturday night, which is an interesting time to drop it. You know, it's a very interesting time to drop that story on a Saturday night. You never know with Man United, actually, do you? I've got to say that Christmas Eve at 4 o'clock, you find out Sir Jim's got 25% officially. Saturday night at 6 o'clock, you announce your CEO. You just don't know with Man United when they're going to announce something. And I think next will be director of football. The plan still is, and look, I go back to early December when I said 90% that Paul Mitchell will be a Man United in some shape or form. I know Roma are pushing, but he definitely wants the Manchester United job. He's a local lad and he wants that job. Man United are very interested in him. I think for Manchester United, it's just about finalising whether they get Dan Ashworth and whether Dan Ashworth will work with Paul Mitchell and Paul Mitchell will work with Dan Ashworth. As we understand it, what a change this is. We're going to go from Richard Arnold and John Murtagh to Berrada, Ashworth, Mitchell above Ten Hag. You can't. I don't think anybody can sit there and go, yeah, that's good. Like you can't go from Arnold and Murtagh to Berrada, Ashworth, Mitchell and go, yeah, I'm still not happy. Yeah, on paper it looks great. You've got to deliver it though. Ashworth apparently really wants the Man United job, but he is heavily invested with Newcastle, and it's a big job at Newcastle, and he's going from a very good job at Newcastle to a very good job at Man United. So that's not over the line yet by any shape or form, but the expectation is that Man United will do that deal. And that would be very, very interesting to have somebody like Dan Ashworth at the club who has a very, very interesting profile as a director of football, who would be bringing in players, not Brexit. I think some people think Dan Ashworth's Brexit. Yes, there's been British players brought into Newcastle, but there's also been foreign players brought in as well. Certainly at Brighton, there was a lot of foreign players brought in. So it's more a type of player. A player that fits the club, fits the identity of the club in relation to the way they want to play football, and strong emphasis on recruitment of not spending £80 million pounds on a player, but finding the alternative. And we've said this many a summer. You know, you're chasing someone like Mason Mount, or you're chasing someone like Jadon Sancho or Harry Maguire, or Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who are very expensive British players. And many a time we've said, I guarantee you, if you had the right scouting, you could find Harry Maguire in South America or Europe for half the price. Or you could find a Mason Mount in Europe for half the price. And that is what Man United have been lacking for many years. The ability to go and recruit at a cheaper level the same player. And I think that's what you get with somebody like Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell. And I would love to see that. I would love to see that combination of Dan Ashworth and Paul Mitchell. But you've got to make sure that those two people are happy to do that. And the job is big. You know, people say, well, can you have Ashworth and Mitchell in the same job? Certainly you can do. The job's big enough for that. There's so much work that needs to be done at Manchester United. It's about bringing the right people in. We don't have any good scouting, says Wolf. Yeah, look, I suppose I go back to, can Sir Jim take United back to the top? And there's a multitude of questions here, and unfortunately we don't have all the answers. But when you look at it, I think the most important thing to clarify is that it will take a long time. This is not going to be a Leicester City job, and you don't want it to be a Leicester City job. You don't want to hit the Premier League 1 year, win it, and then disappear. We want sustained success, and as Berrada said in that thing about Man City on how they've built it over a 10-year period, in tune with the manager, the academy, the vision, injury prevention, rotation, squad big enough to rotate, etc. It's a well-oiled machine at Man City, and for Manchester United to build anything like what Man City have got, some would say is impossible. But I would say it's going to take a few years. This is a long-term project. We've heard Sir Jim say he's in it for the long term. I don't see a definite Man United in the Champions League next year. I don't see us definitely back in the top 4 next year, let alone this year. So I think the enormity of the project is massive. And the thing is that, you get your golf clubs for Christmas and you're really excited on Christmas Day, but you ain't good at golf for 2 or 3 years. And that's if you play it a lot. And I think Man United's a bit like that. We can get excited about the CEO. We can get excited about Ineos. We can get excited about the plans. But I think some people will think there's going to be instantaneous success. Stunned. I'd be absolutely stunned if that were to happen. I can't see this happening quickly. I think this is a long, long project. And they've got to get a lot right, because what we can't do is 1 step forward, 2 step back, because Man United love that. We finished 3rd last year, we won a trophy last year, and now look at us. We all know about progress and then slipping back. This needs to be big progress consistently, step forward, step forward, step forward. And I think it will take time. And obviously, alongside all of that, you've always got the question of the Glazer-Ineos relationship. Now, at the moment, it's a very close relationship and they're working well. People don't like that, but they are. Ineos and the Glazers are working well. Glazers are happy to take on board Ineos's advice on the premise that if this works, they're going to make a lot of money. And it's a win-win for the Glazers. And Ineos are very happy to be working with the Glazers at the moment because they've got their foot in the door. Who knows what that could lead to? And they're making big decisions. So as a relationship, this is working really, really well. But, again, it's like getting a puppy, isn't it? Puppy's not just for Christmas. In 2 or 3 years' time, is the Ineos-Glazer relationship still working? It only takes a little bit of friction and suddenly you're like, how does that work out then? Do the Glazers want to sell to the Ineos? Do Ineos want to leave? So that is always going to be a long-term monitoring point, because at the moment, the feedback is the relationship works well, but it's early days. The minute it doesn't work well, how does that work? Because what we need is investment of money. Where's that money going to come from? The Glazers have never invested £1 of their own money. They're taking £1 billion now. Where's this money going to come from? Is it going to be staged? Sir Jim, the club starts to get better and he starts picking off the Glazer siblings, taking money off them and investing more in. I don't know how that's going to work. Nobody knows how that's going to work. I don't actually know what the solution is. The best solution is the Glazers sell to Sir Jim over the next 5 years, but why didn't they do that in the summer? I mean, you read the SEC report and it never looked like Sir Jim really wanted to buy all of the club when you read it. I mean, that was the interpretation of the Must financial guy. That's his findings. It didn't look like Sir Jim. It looked like Sir Jim was happy to take 25%. It didn't look like he actually wanted to buy 100%, although that was reported. But that's the hope, is that at some point in the future there is going to be an acquisition of the Glazers, because I don't see how this works long term. But this is going to be a long term thing. My positive is that things are happening that we all knew had to happen. They were rumoured to be happening with Ineos and Sir Jim a year ago. They were rumoured to be happening with Qatar. We were told by both PR, whatever you want to call it, that Sir Jim would bring his own CEO and director of football in, and Sheikh Jassim would bring his own CEO and director of football in. So we knew it was going to happen, but the fact that it's happening has to be a positive. And I certainly don't think if you're still walking down the path of what Qatar ownership would have looked like, well, we wouldn't have had any debt and we'd have full control. But I don't think they could have appointed a better CEO than what we're going to do. I don't think we can say that there's a better one out there. I think it is a big positive. Just needs to get to work. Was there anything? There was something else I wanted to bring in. I don't care about that. Two scenarios, win together, board set up. We spoke about that. It's a win-win for the Glazers, of course it is. Why did he leave City? Well, yeah, I think. Look, I know for a fact City are not happy about it. It's a bit like I'm old enough to remember we had a CEO called Peter Kenyon. He was quite a good CEO. I think it was around 2005, 2006 when the Glazers took over. It was a very good CEO, Peter Kenyon, and he went to Chelsea as part of the Chelsea revolution with Mourinho, and it pissed us off because it was like, well, he's a good CEO, but he's going to an up-and-coming club, and it does piss you off. And Man City will go, oh, it doesn't matter, but they are pissed off by that. Of course they are. You don't want to lose good people to your rivals, so they will be pissed off. But on the other hand, he is stepping up from COO to CEO at Manchester United, and they don't have that role for him. So there we go. I'd like to think he's jumping ship because City are about to get absolutely relegated, but I don't know about that. What bottom line is, we're getting somebody that's very, very good in the industry, and yeah, we will see what happens from there. Ross Walsh, do you think we should look at the likes of players people wouldn't expect? Maybe Ollie Watkins, Son from Spurs. They're proven in the Premier League, says Ross. Careless says, it will take at least 4 years, in my opinion, Mark. And Carlos Enrique says, if I was Berrada running a smooth machine like City, I would have taken the United challenge as well, being a part of football history again. And Niki says, I would not want to do this, but if we sold the naming rights to Old Trafford, that would help with FFP and would bring in major pounds. Well, I'm against that. I'm against that, of course. I don't want to see that happening. As far as Ross says about recruitment of Ollie Watkins and Son, I don't think there's a club in the world that wouldn't like Son. He ticks so many boxes. But I think to answer that question, we've got to stop going and getting other people's big players, and we've got to start finding them ourselves. You know, Spurs found Son, Southampton found Mane. Villa found Watkins. Like, we've got to stop being the final step and start being the step before. Leicester did it great with the likes of Kante. Brighton have done it really, really well. There's no reason with proper recruitment we can't find the next Son or the next Kante. And that's what we need to do. We need to stop being the club that pays massive wages, massive agent fees and massive transfer fees to the clubs that find these players. We need to be the club that finds these players. Because in the modern game, you can no longer say, well, it's beneficial if they go to Leicester, because then you find out whether they're Premier League proven, and then we bring them in Premier League proven. The Premier League is so competitive now, there's no reason why we couldn't buy Kante from France, bring him into our team and develop him. And that's what United need to do. We did it with Ronaldo, exactly, Luke. And we've done it in the past. We've just stopped doing it. And we need to start going back to doing that again. Thanks everyone for watching. I heard my name. Me and United equals treble, says Son Heung-min. And thanks everyone who's tuning in. Big shout out to Gems for gifting some memberships. Loving seeing the members' badges in the chats. Thanks for all your support. You don't know how much it helps us, especially in relation to tours and stuff. And remember, if you are a member, you get your badge in the chat, but you can check out all our tour exclusively stuff on the members section. Lots of that planned again in 2024, but your support is appreciated, and it's nice to see so many member badges in the chat supporting the channel. It's that extra bit, so thank you everybody who does that. Really appreciate it. The rest of the day I'm on That's Football at just after 4 o'clock for Bournemouth against Liverpool, up the Bournemouth. And we've got our 8 o'clock show as standard tonight as well. And obviously, if Man United decide they're going to announce the director of football at 5 o'clock on a Sunday, we'll be reacting to that as well. Thanks everyone for watching. Oh, final thing, just a little bit of a promo from myself, I suppose. You may be aware of my series called Driving with Goldbridge. Please support it. We'd love to get to 100,000 views. It's on 85,000. If you like me and my content, then I think you'd like Driving with Goldbridge. You may have never watched it before. It's pinned in the live chat. Just flip over there now and give it a try. Links in the video description as well. Would really appreciate your feedback and support on something that's a little bit different. So check it out, see what you think this Sunday morning, afternoon or evening. Links in the live chat or in the video description. Driving with Goldbridge, something a little bit different. You might like it. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.